Hello explorers, thanks for joining us again and welcome back to another exciting and informative video on our YouTube channel. If you are joining us for the first time, we want to thank you for watching. In this episode, I will be looking at the reason why Emmanuel Macron's African reset struggle to persuade anybody in the continent of Africa, why African countries have shut down their doors with regards to France's imperialistic foreign policy in the region. I will look at why France simply cannot win. No one on the continent is going to take its profession of good faith, neutrality, and partnership and brotherly love at a face value. I will encourage you to watch this video to the end because we shall be covering a lot of information here. So without any much delay, let's just dive straight into it. The bigger the humiliation, the more grandiloquent the relaunch. After a year that saw France forces conducting counter-insurgency operations against jihadist rebels handed out of Mali and also Burkina Faso by military coup, anti-colonialist street protests, and also Russia's presence and interaction in the region prompted French President Emmanuel Macron to announce a fundamental overhaul of France's African strategy. If you look at other aspects, the words coming out from Paris at the moment include humility, partnership, and also investment, and now the key word is a reset that the country of France is aligning with regards to its interaction with African countries, since we all have seen why African countries have shut down their doors with regards to France's imperialist approach with regards to its policies in West Africa, specifically to French-speaking countries. If you look at other aspects, many Africans were understandably skeptical as the French president took his new doctrine on a tour most recently, looking at a couple of years ago, with regards to his travel to Angola, Gabon, the Republic of the Congo, and the Democratic Republic of the Congo, an aesthetic mix of former French, Belgian, and Portuguese colonies that have big economic potential and are being heavily countered by Russia and China as well as the European Union. The days of La France, Afrique are well and truly over. Emmanuel Macron insisted in Gabon's capital Libreville. He was not the first president to promise an end to the post-colonial manipulation of African politics, with crony ties between the French elites and long-serving African autocrats. If you look at France's strategy, the French leader enunciation of a sea change in Francophone Africa's ties sounded oddly like German Chancellor Olaf Scholz's proclamation of the Zinterwende, and a poacher turning point in Berlin's policy towards Moscow's since Russia invasion of Ukraine. Moving ahead, Emmanuel Macron went ahead to say, "We have reached the end of a cycle of France's history in which military questions held prominent in Africa." Macron said, "The first French president to be born after the end of colonial rule. Henceforth, there will be no military bases as such, but new military partnership with African allies. The French forces on the continent will be focusing on training local troops in a conscientious effort to shed the mantle of paternalism and hand scrutiny with regards to his own perspective." Emmanuel Macron built his 4-day trip at a time around themes of saving African forests, developing agriculture, investing in African businesses, and also supporting a transition from fossil fuel to clean energy. He also went ahead clubbing in Kinshasa at the time, beer in the land with Congolese singer Fally Ipupa. If you look at France's strategy, he steered clear of France's traditional West African backyard, where Paris' counter-insurgency policy suffered a despite setback in the region. Emmanuel Macron proved to say that our destiny is tied to African continent. If we are able to seize this chance, we have the opportunity to anchor ourselves to the continent of Africa, which will increasingly be one of the youngest and most dynamic economic market in the world, and one of the greatest, he said, the greatest center of the global growth in the decades to come. Emmanuel Macron saw those words in the region. He was making a virtual necessity to say, at least, by shrinking his military footprint without abandoning key footholds in Senegal, Ivory Coast, Gabon, and Djibouti. France hopes to avoid further forced retreat from the continent of Africa's strategic corners is still not looming. Then, referring to Russia's Wagner mercenaries who have supplanted France's forces in Mali and also Central African Republic, Macron said, he was not sure Africans would soon regret the paramilitary group's presence. He went ahead to say, but small crowds of anti-French demonstrations in Libreville and also Kinshasa were a reminder of France's tarnished image among many young Africans, as well as accusations of political interference that dogged Macron's attempt at a new start. If you look at France's perspective, in Gabon, protesters accused the French leader of helping veteran president at the time, Ali Bongo's re-election campaign, a change he felt obliged to deny. And in the DRC Congo, he faced both public criticism from President Felix Tshisekedi as well as a protest by opposition activists during his trip. If you are France in Africa, you simply can't win. No one is going to take your professions of good faith and political neutrality, partnership and brotherly love at face value. Emmanuel Macron has arguably been the most progressive French president when it comes to Africa, officially acknowledging colonial France's mistreatment of Algerians and seeking an ever-elusive reconciliation. He has apologized in Rwanda for his country's role in failing to prevent the 1994 genocide by the Hutu militias against ethnic Tutsi. He has created a commission to investigate colonial massacre in Cameroon as well. Macron has reached out to youngest civilian society and startups, sometimes over the heads of African governments. He has agreed to scrap the CFA franc, the 8 nations West African currency tied to France, to be replaced by the ECO in 2027, based on information. He is the first French leader to have returned cultural treasures to Africa as well, sending a collection of statues to Benin in what is likely to set a precedent. Despite this effort, yet, though they make France's colonialist blood boil, such gestures are too little, too late for many Africans based on historical information. France will probably be the best advised to channel its effort instead of under the more politically acceptable banner of European Union, which is building a comprehensive partnership with the African Union, the key principle of which were outlined at a summit in Brussels as of February of 2022, based on our own research. As bad luck will have it, however, that bonding relationship has been overshadowed by Russia's invasion of Ukraine, which has also monopolized European Union's political and also financial attention. If you look at that strategy, Africa can clearly see how the bloc, France included, has also plowed billions of euros and military financial assistance into Ukraine, while support for African peace and security efforts has been for more constrained. They also see how Ukraine has gained EU candidate status and been center stage at every summit, while Africa had to struggle to secure even a bilateral help in procuring a COVID-19 vaccines based on research. More importantly as well, the war in Ukraine has added to food insecurity and also energy prices squeezing on the continent. For many Africans, Europe seemed more concerned with blaming Russia than helping. Macron, Africa's reset is in many ways a halfway house. He admitted as much in his big speech. We are held accountable for the past without having been totally convinced about the shape of our common future. The decision to rebrand the African bases as joint training ventures was itself reportedly a compromise between advisors who argued against yielding another inch to France's adversaries as well, and others who want to shutter smudge outposts and also refocuses the armed forces on preparing for possible high-intensity warfare in Europe and also Indo-Pacific. If you look at what happened, while 61% of voters think France should stay in Africa because of the economic and security interests, as well also to help prevent mass migration to Europe. An orthodox poll for La Figaro based on our own research shows that a similar majority in pessimistic about France's African ties and doubtful of Macron's ability to build a new partnership. This may not be the last Franco-African reset, as France continues to inch its way with regards to building a new relationship, as France has been kicked out from countries like Mali, Burkina Faso, and most recently we are looking at what is happening in Niger. If you consider France's presence in the region, France hasn't invested anything with regards to economic partnership, infrastructural development, and also some very important economic aspect in the region. If you consider what China has done in Africa, it has clearly proven that Africa is not where businesses go and die, that African countries offer value, and if you work with the continent with regards to partnership and also of equals, you will reap out the benefits. France's presence in Francophone Africa hasn't gone down well. If you look at France's historical information and presence, the quality with regards to how France treats its former colonies at the time, based on colonial history, that makes it so difficult and why anti-French sentiment is so high in the region. Hopefully that France will re-strategize itself again in the region. However, with the presence of France in the region and looking at what Russia is also involved in the region, France will not find it so easy to reshape its policy. China at the moment is investing hugely in African infrastructure in several ways, from Southern Africa to Eastern Africa as well, to Northern Africa and also West and Central Africa. France faced a huge task with regards to reshaping itself in the region, and France's President Emmanuel Macron, considering his presence, if you consider Macron's effort over his 2 terms, it has definitely shown that the African countries have come of age. Hopefully something will change in the region and Africa will begin to pick up itself and also reshape its future and charting new paths, looking at new partnerships of equals that will work from economic to job creation to innovation and knowledge sharing. We want to thank you for watching. Hopefully we informed you with regards to the reason why Macron's African reset is still struggling to persuade other leaders in the region, and we all shall be looking at what happened in the next decades as Africa charters a new part in its own history. We want to thank you for watching. If you are new to our channel, we encourage you to check some of our informative video on this YouTube channel. We shall be looking on meeting you in our next episode. Have a good day. Bye bye.